Hello and welcome to Smaulgld. In case you missed the top gold, silver, and crypto stories for the weekend in February 25th, 2018, U.S.-led group to launch Belt and Road competitor is the United States, Japan, India, and Australia, better known as the Quad, plotting to challenge China's Belt and Road initiative. That's one of the stories we're going to be talking about today. Also, is the Chinese Ponzi scheme on the brink of collapse as Chinese regulators take over Anbang and order banks to support HNA? Cash-strapped Chinese conglomerate HNA is reported to try to extract loans from its own employees to solve its cash crunch. Third largest Latvian bank fails. Russian gold reserves pass China's. Is the Fed planning more QE? Coinbase enables SegWit on Bitcoin and Litecoin, making both coins easier, faster, and cheaper to use. Well, that was more of a problem with Bitcoin at the moment. And new 1-ounce silver bullion cryptocurrency rounds 9995 silver now available through the Smaulgld site or below this BitChute or YouTube. I've seen a lot of these representations of Bitcoin and Litecoin. Whenever you see a story in the news on Bitcoin or Litecoin, they show a coin. There is no such coin that exists. I've tried to find them in actual silver. I've only been able to find them in brass or some type of silver, cheap silver plate. But Golden Eagle Coin now is offering these silver rounds, and Smaulgld does get a small commission if you do buy them. That's why I'm offering them, although I do think they're kind of cool. They show Litecoin in 1 ounce, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, Ripple, and NEO. So if you are a silver or crypto bug or both, you can now satisfy both cravings with one of these or many of these coins. They're quite good looking coins, and again, they're attractively priced. They're just like priced like other silver rounds, and they're 1 ounce and they're $9.99 fine silver. Okay, South Africa moves towards embracing normal crypto regulation. Wyoming passes favorable crypto regulation. Israel labels Bitcoin an asset, not a currency. Uzbekistan moves to legalize Bitcoin, and Japan's largest or third largest bank, one of the large banks, Mitsubishi, is going to issue its own cryptocurrency. Let's take a look at what happened at gold and silver during the week. Gold closed down 1.4% at 1328. Silver down to 16.50, but only down 0.7. It had less losses than gold, but the gold-silver ratio remains at 80-1. Moronica this week was covered in a separate video and a separate blog post, and we're going to cover Trollgate and Memogate in separate blog posts and videos later on, probably today. Now, let's talk about dollar collapse. Everyone's been talking about the dollar is going to collapse. It's unbacked. The United States has unsustainable debt. The BRICS have had it. They're going to end dollar hegemony and so on. Well, let's take a look at what all that means. So one of the things that they're saying that China is doing and why China is destined to take over the world, they've got this massive GDP growth. They're massive exporting, and now they're expanding in this Belt and Road initiative, and they're going to basically dominate the world. We heard this about Japan in the 1980s. It turned out not to be true. Well, let's take a look at the backdrop of why people say dollar collapse and so on. First of all, a lot of people talk about the petrodollar. They say it's going away, and that means end of dollar hegemony, game changer, game over. The Chinese are going to launch the gold-backed petro yuan. Nonsense. They're going to launch a yuan-denominated oil futures contract. It will not be backed by gold. It will not be exchangeable into gold. China never said that. There's no indication that they'd want to do that. That's just something that the gold pumpers fantasized about and pumped for about 3 months. They're on to other pumping right now. Now, the backdrop of the petrodollar being important, first of all, the petrodollar is not as important as it once was to maintaining the underpinning of the dollar as a dominant reserve currency. Why is that? Well, because first of all, Saudi Arabia is no longer the largest oil producer in the world. It is now Russia, and the United States is fast becoming not only a major oil producer, it actually produces more oil than Saudi Arabia, but it is now also challenging or will challenge Saudi Arabia in exports. So the idea that Saudi Arabia was important, because under the petrodollar agreements in 1973, 1974, Saudi Arabia and the other OPEC nations agreed to price their oil in dollars and only accept dollars in payment. And that created a continued basis for foreign central banks to need to hold dollars, because if they were going to buy oil, they would need to continue to hold their dollars even though they were no longer backed by gold. However, if you want to talk about the need to buy oil, well, countries now need to buy oil from the United States, including China, which buys a large amount of oil from the United States, as well as a significant amount of natural gas. Also, since 1973, 1974, the dollar has had more uses for central banks in terms of managing their liquidity and holding reserve assets than just as something that they need to buy oil with, because oil right now is only about 12% of international trade. So there's a declining importance of oil as the basis for the dollar as being the world reserves currency and being a desired asset, but also there's a declining importance in Saudi Arabia itself as being necessary for the underpinning of the petrodollar. The petrodollar could be backed by U.S. oil if so need be. But again, that's not the main reason now that the dollar is the world's reserve currency. It's not just to buy oil. Let's talk about this Belt and Road Initiative and the challenge by the Quad. So the Belt and Road Initiative is basically, it's enshrined now in the Chinese Constitution. It's a $124 billion project. I call it an extension of the Chinese domestic debt Ponzi scheme, whereby they take these non-market infrastructure projects and they finance them through state-owned banks that fund state-owned enterprises that don't often turn a profit from the projects that they invest in, which then in turn causes the People's Bank of China to order the state-owned banks to extend the loans, recharacterize them as equity. If you're not going to get paid for 100 years, well, that's not debt, that's equity, or simply Sun Tzu accounting, or simply lend the state-owned enterprises more money. Well, after a while, you run out of bridges and roads and tunnels and things and dams built to nowhere that you have to, inside your country, that you have to go outside the country to continue to build more infrastructure. China has realized that the amount of infrastructure that it can build in its country to drive GDP growth is gone, and now they've got far in excess. They're still trying to fill up some of the ghost cities. They're trying to move to a domestic services economy, but they know that any such changeover would have a dramatic impact on their economy. So they need to keep the infrastructure spending going. And if they can't do it in their country, they're going to move it outside. Now, people are concerned that this is China taking over the world. Well, not really, because if China has to go out in the rest of the world and build bridges to nowhere, dams that aren't needed, and so on, they're not going to make any money off of it. The idea is if these are countries that are areas of the world that could use infrastructure, and that's true, but that doesn't mean that if they have the infrastructure that somehow economic activity will be generated from those areas and they can make their money back on the loans that they put to in order to finance these infrastructure projects. A lot of people say, well, this is like the Marshall Plan. They're going to China's going to reap vast rewards from this. Not necessarily. Remember the Marshall Plan, the United States dumped a lot of money into Europe, but Europe is already proven to be a viable economic area, and these are areas that China's putting money in that have not seen economic activity, and there's not necessarily an economic case for it other than the economic case to build infrastructure to try to generate GDP growth. So what does the United States, Japan, Australia, and India have to do with all this? Well, they're called the Quad, the Four, and they're leading a group, or the United States is leading a group, not necessarily to counter the Chinese initiative. What this reminds me of is what the United States did in the 80s under Ronald Reagan. They forced Russia to outspend itself. They forced Russia to spend more money on defense than it possibly could. And I think there's something similar going on here strategically with the United States. They realize that China is going to go out there and they are going to try to create economic activity. They're going to loan a lot of money, and they could reap the benefits, but they also could reap a lot of losses on a lot of these projects, just like they've done in their own country. And this is from Reuters. This is the United States Treasury official saying China might build a port, which on its own is not economically viable. Heard that before. We could make it economically viable by building a road or rail line linking that port. Get what's going on here. China's going to dump money and maybe into a black hole, into its Silken Road. And what the Quad might do is not necessarily try to do competing projects, but might allow China to waste money or blow money on losing projects and then either come to the rescue with additional funding or funding to build a connecting infrastructure project, or just allowing them to lose money on the projects that are not viable. Now, where there are projects that are viable, they may provide competition, which may cause China to have to better their terms, which would mean they better their terms, which means they lose even more money if the project doesn't work. We're seeing an example of that in a second. So the United States is backing Japan. Now, Japan has had its eye on infrastructure projects outside of its country. They have the free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, and that includes infrastructure builds. And the Quad, China, Japan, India, Australia, and China, did I get that right? Australia, India, Japan, the United States recently met in November 2017 during the ASEAN East Asian Summits. Now, they talk about the BRICS, and everyone says, oh, the BRICS have had it. They're going to end dollar hegemony. No, the BRICS, if you go through each country, they're in no position to end anything. Let's start with South Africa. South Africa is a basket case of an economy. It's the last letter in the acronym BRICS. It's the S. South Africa just has a new president. South Africa, Cape Town is running out of water. The rand is a disaster. South Africa is no longer a major gold producer. South Africa is basically in a lot of trouble. They're in no position to end dollar hegemony with or without the other BRIC. Take a look at Brazil. Brazil is a Western Hemisphere country. It's got nothing in common with South Africa or the other countries. Brazil has a lot of corruption issues. Again, Brazil is not in a position to be dictating that they've had it with the dollar and they're going to end dollar hegemony. India, it's ironic, or not ironic, but it's somewhat ridiculous that India is even considered part of an alliance with the BRICS. India and China are not friendly. They have border disputes. They in no way, shape, or form are on any type of friendly terms. And India has got its own set of issues. India has fraud issues. India's got a lot of problems. And India, as we've seen, is more aligned with the United States than it is with China. What does that leave us with? That leaves us with a Russia-China relationship or entity that are joining together because they've had it and they want to end dollar hegemony. See, people think that that's what these, because they hear it from the gold pumping crowd, that these countries, their only national goal is to end dollar hegemony, crush the dollar, and make gold go higher. That's nonsense. They have so many other things that they're concerned about. China is concerned about its debt. China wants to internationalize the yuan, but China is not interested in boosting the gold price. That's not... You listen to some of these commentators, they make it sound like China's strategy is a gold strategy. Russia's strategy revolves around gold. It doesn't. It revolves around a much more holistic approach as to what they're trying to do as countries, not about what they're trying to do as gold countries. So Russia is historically an enemy of China. However, Russia has made friendly overtures to China. They are on better terms probably now than they've ever been in the last few hundred years. And there are some arrangements with Russia and China. Now, Russia, of all the countries in the BRICS, does have the most sound economic central bank. It has very little debt. Its economy, however, and it does have gold, but it has more U.S. treasuries than it has gold. It's a relatively small economy. It's like the 10th, 11th largest in the world, and most of that is based on oil and gas. Now, Russia has issues because it has sanctions from the United States and has sanctions on from the Europeans. Russia's probably the only country in the BRICS that has any real incentive to, quote, end the dollar hegemony. But at the same point, they're not foolish. They know that most of the international finance system works on dollars, and they're smart to try to work on alternative structures and arrangements. But again, Russia alone isn't going to do it. And China, as we've seen and we're going to see, has got massive debt problems, has got massive issues across the board. And India is not going to help them. South Africa can help them, and Brazil's not much of an issue. So what happened recently? Well, last week, Anbang, which is a Chinese state-owned insurer, and HNA, there's a lot of signs now that we're having a lot of problems with the state-owned enterprises in China. Are these the companies that are going to light the fuse to will explode the Chinese debt Ponzi scheme? By the way, here's just a story here. Pakistan turns down cheaper loan from China. This was there's a Pakistan-Chinese alliance where they work together on infrastructure projects. You can see China comes in, tries to undercut Japan comes in, tries to undercut China. In this case, Pakistan turned it down. But you can see competition will be heating up. And that's probably a sign that that particular infrastructure project was a good one, and Japan wanted in on it. But at that point, Pakistan said no. So Chinese regulators take control of Anbang Insurance. The game changer. See, China's not going to launch any gold-backed yuan. They're not. China's goal right now is they got to deal with this. They've got a problem with Anbang, their insurance company. They got problems with their conglomerates. Their number one goal is not to launch a gold-backed yuan and an oil futures contract. They've got a lot of issues they've got to sort out right now. They've got all these companies we're going to see. They've got debt issues. They've expanded their corporate charters. They bought stuff they shouldn't have bought. They borrowed money they shouldn't have borrowed. And they're now saying that this Anbang could be China's AIG moment where insurance company sets off a systemic collapse. Chinese regulators take control of Anbang Insurance for a year. And we'll see how long that lasts, meaning that probably might last a lot longer. Now, Anbang also owns assets. It owns the Waldorf Astoria. So I wouldn't say that's systemic risk, but it shows that these Chinese entities are not just in China. They have assets all over the world. Now, HNA is a conglomerate, and Chinese banks, China tells banks to support HNA Group, REDD, reports. Now, this is what I'm talking about, where China just decides that, well, we can't have these companies who lost money go out of business. We're going to have to support them. So they tell the state-owned banks to support the state-owned enterprises. And Zero Hedge rightly points out, Chinese conglomerates are officially insolvent. We've seen reports from China that bad debt is up to 40% of all issued debt, something like that. Now, the problem with that is, first of all, you can't trust the Chinese numbers, and it could be higher. You've got, when you have companies issuing or lending money or borrowing money from Chinese banks to invest in projects that are never going to make any money, what do you expect? And they invest the money knowing that they're not going to make any money, but knowing that they're under a mandate that they have to invest a certain amount or build a certain number of skyscrapers or build a certain size bridge. It's not going to make any money. That's what happens. You get bad debt and eventually it has to be paid back. Zero Hedge, Anbang first, then HNA, then he's got some other ones here, Evergrande, Delhi and Wanda. This is just going to be a cascading effect of all these Chinese state-owned enterprises, and the banks that support them are just not going to make their money back, and they're going to have to cry uncle at some point. Now, I've mentioned for the longest time that a collapse of China's debt Ponzi scheme would be good for gold. That's what the gold bug should be jumping up and down with, pointing out that this is likely to happen. No, instead they invent these stories about gold-backed yuan, game changer, gold exchangeable on the Shanghai Gold Exchange for oil. You're barking up the wrong tree with that petro-yuan nonsense. We've already mentioned the petrodollar is not as important as it once was, and there's no way a Chinese petro-yuan is going to replace the petrodollar, and they're not, especially if they're not going to back it, and they can't back it by gold. They're not going to have a convertible into gold. Think about it this way. Why would China want to ever back their currency by gold when they have a Ponzi scheme going on? That would prevent them from continuing their Ponzi scheme. Their entire economy would collapse in a minute. We say, well, they can have these notes and they can exchange the note for the gold. Yeah, they'd be out of gold in about a week. Everyone who deals with China knows that China has a lot of problems, has a lot of debt, and there's no way, if they didn't take the dollar in 1971 before they did QE, they wanted the gold, you think people are going to want it if they had a choice? Let me see, Chinese yuan or gold, Chinese yuan or gold. They're going to take the gold. So China's not going to offer its gold, and it never said they were. China never announced the gold-backed yuan or gold yuan exchangeable. Never. Now they're trying to say, the gold bugs are trying to say, well, this is going to create demand for gold. No, it's not. They have all these inventions. Something's going to create this massive demand for gold. Gold's going to go to 50,000. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, I've always called my little segment on China's vision of the world of peace and harmony through sound money and gold. Anbang actually means bring peace and stability. Well, I guess that's not happening with their recent finances. Let's look at HNA. They were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, how any HNA default could affect markets. They were saying, well, it would be hypothetically, but now it looks like HNA might also affect the markets. Struggling HNA group likely to sell more airline stakes. See, the Ponzi scheme runs up to you. When you go out and you buy a lot of stuff on credit, it's just like when you buy that McMansion on credit. Eventually, if you can't pay for it, you don't own it. Problem is when it's an insurance company that doesn't own stuff, and those are assets that they need to lend money off of, or the conglomerates that need the asset in order to say that they have a certain level of assets or they're expecting income from those assets. Well, if you have to sell them and you have to sell them at a loss, you can see how you basically go from the black to the red very quickly. Chinese conglomerate HNA facing U.S. sanctions. If they don't have enough problems, now they're going to have trouble making money in the United States because the U.S. is putting sanctions on them. So not only is the United States going to compete with China in the Belt and Road, opportunistically it sounds, although they haven't nailed anything down yet, they're also now going to put sanctions on HNA, making it harder for them to continue their Ponzi scheme. China Banking Regulatory Commission told several banks to continue providing working capital to HNA Group and not to accelerate loans. This is what I'm talking about. Companies in China get into trouble. The government comes in and says you can't do that. You've got to continue to support money-losing entities. Eventually, economies run on money-losing entities. Money-losing entities with massive amount of debts collapse. You could say the United States did the same thing, and you're absolutely right. During 2008 with the bailouts, but the United States is nowhere near as profligate, never was, as China has been in the last 5 years. China has lent more money in the last 5 years than all central banks combined. They've poured more concrete in the last 5 years than the United States poured in the last 100. China has, its economic miracle was accomplished through massive credit binging. And not all these projects are profitable, and now they want to take it international with Belt and Road. They're going to have competition there from the Quad, it looks like. Again, nothing has been formalized. Chinese debt-stricken HNA pledges 41% stake in Hong Kong property unit as collateral for loan. That's a lot of collateral to be providing if you're supposedly a large insurer. Chinese buying spree over. Anbang, Dalian Wada, HNA, Chinese conglomerates no longer buying up the world. If you remember, you were hearing back in the 80s, Japan was going to take over the world. They were buying all the assets. Well, it turned out that never happened. It looks like the days of China borrowing money to buy assets are over, because now they're going to have to start shedding assets, and they're going to be a race against the clock because they're going to have to pay down their debt. Chinese conglomerate HNA struggling with billions in debt is reportedly hounding its own employees for money. Now, that is not the sign of a good company, sound company, if it has to try to get loans from its own employees. Deutsche Bank, interesting. This one, HNA becomes, Deutsche Bank is now a top Chinese backer. HNA becomes top shareholder. I'm sorry. HNA, it doesn't have enough trouble with its investments, is also a big investor in Deutsche Bank, which is not a very stable company. A very stable bank. We'll see later. They recently laid off about 500 employees. They've been reported on the brink of collapse for years now, and HNA happens to be their largest shareholder. So if Deutsche Bank were to go down, that would not help struggling HNA. China orders 3 insurers to fix overseas investment rule breaches. Yeah, because these companies, they were probably encouraged to buy everything, borrow as much as they could, and now that it's all coming back at them, the Chinese regulators look and they say, oh no, sorry, you weren't supposed to do that. Oh no, we're prudent here. We're China. We don't do that kind of nonsense. Well, here's another one from James Henry Anderson of JM Bullion. 4 Chinese banks, according to the, I think this is the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, they've identified these banks as systematically important banks. If one goes down, they all kind of go down. Well, China's got 1, 2, they got 4 banks in the first few tiers here. And what would be the impact if these banks go under on JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank, Deutsche Bank, HSBC, and so on. And this is the pot calling the kettle black after decades of Chinese reckless debt binging. Well, this is how they generated their GDP. This is how they created their miracle. Bloomberg reports Xi Jinping's debt crackdown has gone into hyperdrive with Aang Bang takeover. Yeah, so now they're serious. No more Ponzi. This is nonsense that he's now cracking down. They encourage this stuff. Now they're taking over. They got no choice. This was bound to happen when you have these types of excesses. They either, in a normal free market capitalist system, they go under. Well, that's never going to happen. I mean, it didn't happen in the United States. The United States is supposedly somewhat a free market capitalist society. It's never going to happen in China. So now they're serious. No more Ponzi. No more, these types of deals anymore. It's too late. Too late. Too late. A decade of this success is coming back to hit them. Not only is the United States going to supposedly put sanctions on some Chinese companies, which isn't going to help them. They're going to compete with the Quad on the Belt and Road. Now they're also making public noises about saying the era of congratulating China is over and that China is engaged in non-market behavior. Tell us something we don't know. And here, more Chinese intervention. China shuts down its VIX to halt market turbulence. And here's my Chinese vision of peace and harmony through trade and sound money and gold. Here's an interesting story. I won't go through it in detail, but it mentions that China uses its U.S. debt holdings to manage the RMB exchange rate. Another use of the United States dollar / treasury. People keep saying, oh, the United States dollar is toilet paper. It can never pay. That's taking a very... That's looking at the dollar and looking at the treasuries solely from the perspective of the United States debt and not recognizing the entire international global system runs on dollars. All these countries, other than Russia probably, because it doesn't have much debt, China, People's Bank of China, Bank of Japan, ECB, Bank of England, Federal Reserve, they're all based on debt-based Ponzi schemes. My only point in all this is not that the United States is to be commended for its management, although it has stopped QE, whereas ECB is still doing it, the Bank of Japan is still doing it, Bank of England is still doing it, God knows what China is still doing, but they're all based on massive debt. And to say that the United States' dollar is toilet paper, well, then you got to say they're all toilet paper, and you have to say the United States has got the best color on it, because the yuan is the problem, not the dollar. And here we go. Hong Kong Gold Exchange needs to create gold corridor along the Belt and Road. Okay, well, that's a good thing. Here, China looking to expand the Silk Road into Latin America. Well, we'll see how well that goes. Well, they'll work with the BRICS. They'll work with Brazil on that. All right. Here, Chinese companies forced to halt trading amid avalanche of stock loan margin calls. Top-down economy, interfere in the market. You're never going to get a free market out of China, and they'll never be able to... The only thing they can do is what they keep saying the United States is going to print its way into inflation. Well, the United States managed to pull it off. The United States managed to do QE and stop it. I'm not saying that it's not going to come back to haunt them. It probably will. But what I'm saying is during that period of time, the dollar didn't collapse. There's no way anyone's going to have any trust in the Chinese yuan as they try to save their Ponzi scheme economy. Or how much gold people think they have or they say they have. Let's move on. Latvia calls emergency meeting after third largest bank fails. Not a lot of details on this one. Just to note that bank failures are not just, usually aren't just limited to the particular bank. Although in this case it could be, but they often have systemic knock-on effects. We're not sure whether this one will have that or not. Turning point. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago that I was seeing in the political situation that while the entire media will have you believe that everyone in the world hates Trump and that everyone loved Obama, that's not true according to the polls. Now, this particular poll, the Rasmussen poll, both taken on February 23rd, at the same period of time in each of their administrations. Now, Obama was in for a year, Trump was in for a year, and Obama had a 45% approval rating, and Trump has a 50% approval rating. But what I think is more telling is that Obama's approval rating, while it was 45%, those that strongly approved the job he was doing was only 23%, while 43% strongly disapproved. I like the way the Rasmussen poll does this. They don't just say whether you like what he's doing or dislike what he's doing, but whether you approve or strongly approve or somewhat disapprove. But Trump has a strongly approved at 35%, which is much higher than Obama's strongly approved 23%, and his strongly disapproved, while it is 41%, Obama's was 43%. But what the media likes to do is take that 41%, make it seem like everyone hates Trump and that no one likes him. Now, Obama did have one thing against, a big thing against him in 2010. They were still recovering from the financial crisis, which he had nothing to do with. So that was not helping him and was giving him strong disapproval ratings, but he wasn't getting much on the strong approval rating. Trump has in his favor a strong economy, which is probably helping his strong approval rating, but his strongly disapproval rating is not even as strong as it was against Obama. And of course, at the time, the media was crowing that Obama was the greatest president ever. And so you see, I think this is going to continue in this direction. If the economy continues to grow, if it doesn't, then all bets are off. But if the economy continues to grow, I think you're going to see more and more people admitting that they like Trump, admitting that they like the job that he's doing. And you always have your never Trumpers. And that number should remain around 35 to 40%. But I think you'll see more support for Trump as you go forward. I saw this with Reagan. People hated Reagan, thought he was a buffoon, thought he was an idiot. As the economy came back, that's the real deal for middle America as well. The economy does. Most people who pay attention to politics are going to really like or really dislike Obama or Trump. The guy, the gal, the he, the she, the they, whatever gender you want to say, the most important thing to people is how the economy's doing. And that's going to drive, it's what 1992, a Carville said at the Clinton campaign, it's the economy stupid. And that's what drove George Herbert Walker, 1,000 points of lights, out of business. Deutsche Bank, if trust in monetary and political stability were lost, people would turn to cryptocurrencies. Jeez, I thought they would have turned to Deutsche Bank. Here's one that I like to mention every time they mention the internment of Japanese Americans. There was the 70th anniversary of the internment of Japanese Americans. It always gets a lot of play in the media. And the two things I find odd about it is they always mention as something that this was something Americans did to Japanese Americans. No, it wasn't something Americans did to Japanese Americans. It was something Franklin Delano, we have nothing to fear but fear itself, Roosevelt did by executive order. This was not an act of Congress. This was not something that the American people lined up and said, why don't we put Japanese Americans in these camps? This was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Point one. Point two, Italian Americans were picked up and included in this, and over 100,000 Italian Americans were also interned, followed, had their property seized, people relocated, and so on. You never hear about Italian Americans being interned. You only hear about Japanese Americans, and you only hear that it was something Americans did to Japanese Americans. They never want to blame their hero, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, for this. So I like to point that out. There they are, Italian Americans interned during World War II. They were a threat. Litecoin, not going to go through all the stories on Litecoin this week, but Litecoin basically went up while Bitcoin went down, and it seems to be because there seems to be some type of market understanding that Litecoin is currently better in commerce because of LitePay and other initiatives than Bitcoin because it's cheaper and faster to use. So Litecoin has been going up and Bitcoin been going down. We're having this debate where people are saying that the Visa is going to try to shut down cryptocurrencies as a threat. And I say, no, they're not. They're going to try to co-opt them. That's why they issue these Litecoin, LitePay cards. As long as they can make their fees and as long as they're not direct competitors, they have no problem collecting fees from Gold Money's Visa card. Gold could be a payment threat, but it's not. And cryptocurrencies don't have to be a threat to Visa or MasterCard if they choose to work with them. And I think that's what they're doing. And I also heard that, well, they've got a lot of money. If they want to shut them down and things turn differently, they can always lobby Congress. Well, so can a lot of crypto millionaires and billionaires if they want to quote Ernie Shavers. That was a boxer in the 70s. Bernie Sanders. The acorn. That's what Muhammad Ali called him. There are millionaires and billionaires of cryptos, and I guarantee you they are also lobbying Congress, state legislatures across the country for favorable crypto regulation. Almost all bullion dealers, online bullion dealers, accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, or so on through payment process. So you got a Maggie Metals, AppMix, Bullion Store, GoldSilver.com, Gold Money, JM Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, Provident Metals, Silver.com, Shift Gold, Sharps Pixley. So there's money to be made in accepting Bitcoin, Litecoin. And as long as it can be regulated, taxed, and the banks can get their cuts, I think then you're going to continue to see more of it. It's not time for Visa to move in, not to ban. It's the time to co-opt is now, and I think that's what they're doing. Counting on banning is a very risky, low probability strategy for the governments to take, for the banks to take. You make no money when you ban stuff. You have to spend money on enforcement. You have to go after people. You have to arrest people. When you properly regulate and tax, it's what governments like. It's the Reagans. If it taxes and moves, if it stops moving, subsidize it. This crypto thing could be a big money spinner for the government. It could also be a big way of tracking if they so choose to do it. And I think that's what they're going to do. The idea they're going to arrest everyone who has cryptocurrency, that's complete nonsense. And then they point to someone who got arrested for tax evasion, or somebody got arrested for money laundering. They're always going to arrest people for money laundering and tax evasion. You can evade taxes. You can money launder with gold. You can money launder with plane tickets. You can money launder with cash. They're going to arrest you for that. You sell all your gold, all your silver, you don't report your tax gain, they'll arrest you for that, or they'll come after you for your tax evasion. If you commit money laundering with your gold or your silver or your plane tickets or your artwork or whatever it is, they're going to go after you. But they're not going to ban artwork. They're not going to ban plane tickets because people are money laundering with them. It's the same idea with the cryptocurrencies. They're looking to get bad actors. They're not looking to get the underlying, unless they're morons, which I haven't seen any that. I mean, granted, federal people in bureaucracy, I'm not saying that they have the purest intentions or they're the smartest, but one thing they do know is they stay in business more by regulation. They get more bribes and kickbacks from regulation. They get nothing if they have to ban stuff. That's a thankless job, running around trying to enforce a rule that you can't enforce. So, Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming push legislation supporting cryptocurrencies. We're seeing that across the board. See, bankers want crypto trading fees. They want ICO fees. SEC wants ICO registration fees. The governments want their tax cut. The only people that are shouting ban are some precious metals dealers and PM owners, right? And people who own precious metals. That somehow, if this cryptocurrency thing went away, the price of gold and silver would rise. That's not true. Before cryptocurrencies were even a deal, a couple of years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago, the prices weren't going up anyway. It's got nothing to do with it. So hoping that the cryptocurrencies go away and insisting that they're going to go away and trying to convince people not to invest in them isn't going to make them go down, isn't going to make gold and silver go up. You got one side, the gold, silver fanatics, insist the government's going to help them and ban cryptos. Well, that's foolish, because if you really are a gold and silver sound money person, you're for small government, you're not for the government stepping in and helping you save your investment by not that it would anyway, by banning cryptos. But then the other side, you got the Bitcoin fanatics insisting the government's powerless to stop Bitcoin and will destroy central banking and so on. My view is they're both wrong. Cryptos will grow under central banks and governments. You've often heard gold is money, been money for 5,000 years, period, with the assumption that it always will be. I like to say horses, you could have said in 1900, horses have been transportation for 5,000 years, period. Like, it doesn't matter what's been 5,000 years. The question is whether it will be. Here's the problem with gold and silver as money. It skipped a couple of generations. The reason it was money for 5,000 years is because every generation used it as money. There are millennials, there are people 20, 30, 35 years old, 4 years old, never seen a silver coin, never handled a silver coin, never thought of silver as money, certainly never thought of gold as money. So when you remove it from the day-to-day lives, at best, silver and gold now take on a mythical quality. People think, oh, gold is money, period. No, they don't think that. They could just as well think chocolate is money or seashells are money, because they have no. And you could say, well, they're ignorant, they don't understand. Yeah, they don't understand. But that's where you are. You have the millennials and even the generation X, Y, whatever it is, the one after them. They don't know anything about gold. They don't know anything about silver. You can call them ignorant all you want. In 20 years, they'll be there'll be, you know, elderly people and they'll have had kids and they won't know anything about gold and silver. That's how that's human behavior. That's how things come and go. That's why there is no Roman Empire anymore. I don't mean because of the dead. I just mean human traditions, folklores, whatever, they go away. People don't, for example, no one worships Zeus anymore. Why? Because they stopped worshiping Zeus. And you can't say Zeus was God for 2,000 years. Well, he's not anymore. Jesus has replaced Zeus. Islam has replaced Zeus in those in the Middle East and so on. Judaism has been around. So people just pass on. And if you're not using gold or silver for 2 generations, it's not money anymore. No, irrespective that it had been for 5,000 years. That doesn't mean it couldn't be, it shouldn't be. It just means it isn't. Litecoin Cash came out. So it went up, but I guess it's very hard to get your Litecoin Cash to find a place where you can sell it. Here's this guy, Elliot Singer. Bitcoin boom continues. The limitless ignorance of humans. Get off my lawn. Make my day. And all this excitement, I kind of lost track myself. All right. What else do we got here? PayPal executives have a very high likelihood Bitcoin will become popular payment method. This guy Draper saying, why would I trade? Why would I sell the future for the past? This is what's happening. It's not whether I want it to happen or whether I'm for it happening, against it happening. It's nothing to do with it. This is what's happening. Bitcoin, the power to, cryptocurrency has the power to transform financial markets. My opinion is irrelevant in all of this. What happens in the world? I'm observing what happened. Dutch investors hodling, unfazed by crashing Bitcoin prices. We're not going to talk about Dianne Feinstein. Well, here you go. Bitcoin fees down 96% from peak as Coinbase and Bitfinex integrate SegWit. The thing with Dianne Feinstein, her own party's rejecting her for a younger Hispanic candidate for Senate. I mean, she is 87 years old. The reason I put this under Bitcoin, she had sponsored that stupid bill where they were trying to figure out how they can stop cryptocurrencies from coming into the country, which is kind of ridiculous because there's no border that they have to cross. You can walk across the border, and now you've got your cryptocurrencies because if you've got your private keys memorized, you can just go in and get them off of the blockchain. South Korea, well, this is interesting. Crypto regulators found dead from unknown cause. So I guess the supporters also have assassins. Who knows? South Korea supports normal cryptocurrency transactions. Here, European Central Bank talking about doing a poll whether Bitcoin is a viable alternative to traditional currencies, and 75% said yes. Some guidelines here is the Wyoming moves to lift cryptocurrency property tax. The unanimously passed bill exempting utility tokens. Of course, there'll be a debate on what utility tokens are, but you can see how, another one, there's regulation coming out that's favorable to cryptocurrencies. Swiss guidelines for ICOs, again, not banning ICOs, but how to regulate ICOs. Israel saying that Bitcoin's an asset, not a currency. This actually helps. This is actually a punt, because a lot of people say, well, they'll never accept a competing currency. All right, they won't accept a competing currency, but they'll accept an asset. If they call it an asset that you can sometimes use as a currency, now you've eliminated the argument that they have to fight a competing currency because they don't view it as a competing currency. So they've chosen their battle to say it's not a competing currency. It's just some kind of asset. It's a digital asset, and we can tax, track, regulate it. And that's what they're going to do. Uzbekistan intends to legalize Bitcoin. Bitcoin rallies as South Korea backs normal cryptocurrency regulation. Here's Wyoming House unanimously approves 2 blockchain pieces of legislation. So you see, you've got all this favorable legislation coming out. Mitsubishi's biggest bank, it was the biggest bank, not the 3rd largest bank, will be releasing its own cryptocurrency in March. Deutsche Bank cut 250 bankers. So we are seeing Bank of England, Carney says Bitcoin has pretty much failed as a currency. Okay, so then why mention it? But here's what we're talking about. A lot of younger people are invested in things like cryptocurrencies or alternative investments because they turn their backs on stocks. That's Morgan Stanley saying that. That's true. We had another report some guy said, I scrolled past it, but he was basically saying the reason the cryptocurrencies are going to do well is because millennials love them. And that is going to surpass or supplant any hatred of them that the older generations may have of them. Due to central bank intervention, there are no free-floating currencies, just free-range currencies. Well, I said that, so it must be true. Gold. What else have we got? Not much on gold, other than we have Kazakhstan reporting 300 tons of gold in its reserve. That's almost as much as the United Kingdom. But the big news of the week that I broke, and was covered by Zero Hedge and a bunch of other news outlets, was that Russia, in January, passed People's Bank of China with a big gold purchase. They now have 1,857 tons of gold. There's a YouTube. There's a Smaulgld blog post with lots of charts. And as I mentioned, it was there. David, friend of mine, very nicely pointed out. Check out Smaulgld, made it to Zero Hedge. Thanks for the shout out there. As I mentioned, it got picked up in a lot of places. Here it is in Zero Hedge. And here it is in Sputnik News, the French version. Then I got picked up here in Russia Insider. So big story of gold. Goldpumper.com. This one comes from Andrew McGuire. I don't know what he's talking about. He said this is the game changer we've all been waiting for. The world will never be the same. That's what he said. It's another one to shock the world. Game changer, rock global markets. I guess this is bigger than sovereign-sized gold buy in 45 days. Gold set to skyrocket. And what we have here is gold is going to go no offer. No gold to be found at any price. It's very curious. Gold 50,000. Game. What a load of nonsense. And we see these stories all the time. They never turn out to be. Hey, they're just reminding me of this one. The game changer for gold. Gold back yuan. Gold going to be converted in the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This one came out a few months ago. Called me out by name, by Smaulgld, where I said there was no basis for this story, no proof for this story, no backing. And he said, you want proof? And he cites the Nikkei Asian Review story, which had no source either. Anyway, these stories, just be on the lookout for them. If they're not true, they're not true. There we go. Tantalum in the Scottish hide, 5 tons of gold. Well, there you go, Scottish gold. Very good to see Scottish gold. We've got a sunken treasure thing you can take a look at. Women in the airport found with hidden gold bars in their rectums at the Japanese airport. Those are pretty large bars, I'd say. Venezuela launching their cryptocurrency backed by oil, backed by gold. Who knows what it's backed by? The problem is if they go bankrupt or it's declared illegal, or it's not convertible, it's useless. So we'll see how well Venezuela does with its cryptocurrency there. Yeah, they are the people starving in Venezuela. Well, that about does it. I want to thank everyone for listening. If you'd like to buy gold or silver, please consider doing so through the Smaulgld site. You can buy through the affiliate links at bgsc.com, Money Metals Exchange, SD Bullion, and Golden Eagle Coins, who also have those, if you remember from the top of the hour, or the top of the 45 minutes, wherever this video happens to be, the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, silver rounds. So check those out as well. Also consider donating to Smaulgld via Bitcoin, Litecoin, or becoming a Smaulgld patron. I think I got 10 now. Just kind of embarrassing, but it's better than nothing. And I do appreciate those 10 individuals who dutifully send me a few dollars each and every month. Thanks for listening.